Okay, we're on.
Can you send it again, Karen?
Yes.
Okay, I'd like to call the meeting of the Tuesday, June 6th. Tuesday's odd to me, I'm still getting over that. June 6th Select Board meeting to order. We have Aaron Underhill, our clerk, Ellen Rosenfeld, our vice chair, and I'm Craig Schultz, the chair. So, and Michael Gazinski, our town administrator, and Karen Borre-DeMarzo, our assistant town administrator, with us tonight. Thank you for attending in the audience. So we'll get started. We have a few announcements first. First is the Juneteenth announcement. On Juneteenth, that's June 19th, the town hall offices will be closed. That is, Juneteenth is a holiday that commemorates the 2 years after President Lincoln declared the end of slavery, the end of enslavement in the United States, and Major Gordon Granger of the Union Army marched into Galveston, Texas to enforce the Emancipation Proclamation and to free the last enslaved black Americans in Texas. So it was 2 years after it was signed, and the news came out on June 19th. And so that's the holiday now.
Sorry.
I'd also like to congratulate the class of 2023. Unfortunately, I was out of town at the graduation, but from everything I've heard and seen, it was a wonderful event. And I get now the fun part. The water ban. I'm going to let Mr. McKay announce this.
Thank you. This will be short and sweet. So, there's been many questions about the watering ban. The watering ban goes into effect on May 1st and it continues through September 30th. There's many different versions of a watering ban. The watering ban that we have, it's posted, Karen posted it on Facebook, we posted it on the town website, it's posted everywhere around town. The watering ban that's in effect as of today is all Millis residents may, and I'm talking about all Millis residents, are allowed to water between the hour, you cannot water between the hours of 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. That's 7 days a week. And that's everybody. Whether you work for the town or you don't work for the town, everybody's allowed to water. As the river level flow drops in the Charles River up at the Franklin Bridge as it goes over Medway, there's a gauge there. Once that drops, we will institute a more severe watering ban, which will go to odd and even. But if anybody wants to look, it's on the website. That's where we update it. And once we change it, it's also on the cable. It's on cable today. It's been on there since May 1st. So if anybody has any questions, please call the DPW, and we'd be more than happy to update you. And we will keep residents updated because there are penalties that are associated with non-watering. And it's in the packet that you have, and it's on the website. So that's watering ban.
All right, thank you.
We'll see you in a little while.
Any questions about the watering ban? Nope. Okay. All right, next announcement, there is a meeting at the Tri-County School on June 15th at 6 p.m. That's to discuss the construction of a brand-new Tri-County regional school. This will be a public hearing, and it'll be our chance to hear what's planned and how they're planning to use it. They've been in to talk to us once. There'll be a special election in October regarding this, and it's important that people understand what this project is. As we get closer to October, we'll be making more announcements about it and doing more explanations and hopefully having them in to speak to us directly. But this is a general district-wide meeting, June 15th at 6 p.m. I don't know how it's being run. I don't know if there's question and answers or if it's just going to be a presentation. I am attending just as a audience member, I believe. I'm not on the committee there. I'm not involved in it, but I have a lot of questions myself that I'm hoping they can answer and clear up. When they presented here, it was quite an expensive project, north of $200 million, if I recall. And the project is receiving about 25%, I believe, in funding. About
Reimbursement
25% reimbursement from the state. To put that in perspective, the Clyde Brown was $50 million with over 40% reimbursement from the state. So it's quite an expensive project. And the town of Millis would be given a assessment based on the number of students that attend. So at this time, we have no idea what that cost would be to the town. So we'll have to go to that meeting and get more information. And again, October, and we'll get close to that, will be the vote that is held in every town in the Tri-County District on the same day at the same time. And it is not one vote per town, it's a vote per person. So it's going to be something we need to keep our eye on as we get closer. Last announcement I have is it's Pride Month here in Millis, everywhere actually. But Millis has put a lovely bit of information about the Pride events on our on our website, the homepage of our website. Karen wrote up a lovely piece about it, so I encourage you to go look at it. Gives the history of Pride Month, why it's celebrated in June, all those great things. It's easy to find. It's right on the homepage. Click on news. I was looking for other information today, not quite as easy, but that right there. So,
The homepage we have under control.
yes, all right.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
could we have a discussion, if not tonight, at a future date, about things that we could do as a town for Pride? I know Medway does a lot of different things. They have flags up. They have a lot of things that they do. And, you know, we may not be as big as Medway, but there's still things we could do here, so.
Yeah. I think that's a great idea, and I think there's something the town should do. This year, with it being the month of June and our next meeting not until middle June, I don't think that anything's going to happen at this year's Pride, but I think if we planned and we worked towards next year's, we could do something. So I encourage that. Let's brainstorm it out at the next meeting or at a subsequent meeting. And certainly put it on closer to, in time for us to do something for June, so not quite a year from now, you know?
Yep.
That's good. All right. Okay, appointments and hearings. Run back, oops.
Oh, no, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah.
It was the event approval, but you're reading above that.
I did.
My apologies.
I'm doing the stuff in bold and then I'm going below it.
Yes.
Appointments and hearings, event approval, run
There you
back to
go.
school. So the run back to school, do we have somebody presenting on this today?
We have Allison.
Allison,
awesome.
please come on up.
I know, I can't believe it's been a year.
Good evening. Thank you for having me here. I appreciate all the support that some of you have given, and Mr. McKay and the town, and everyone's on board with this from what I've heard. So just like to get your official approval for us this September to hold our, I think this will be our 6th annual run back to school. It wasn't always a run back to school. We started with a boosters 5K or Halloween run, and we've tried to create this a back to school community-wide, growing, hopefully a little bit every year, getting more people involved, all the schools involved, a lot of the sports teams. Love to award you another medal this September.
Yeah, I got second place in my age group. There were 2 of us. Just saying.
But it's a fun event, and yeah, we'd like to start promoting it, and we have the banner we can hang hopefully on the tennis court, the back of the court again, and get the word out.
Okay, so I guess we just need to take a vote to allow this event for Sunday, September 24th. Is that what we're looking at?
Yes.
Yes.
And just a note, we did reach out to DPW, the police chief, fire chief, and school, everyone's on board, so.
Okay.
I don't see my motion written
Well,
here.
there isn't one written.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Make a motion.
I'll
then.
make a motion to schedule the run back to school for September 24th, 2023.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to grant permission for the run back to school Sunday, September 24th, 2023. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, you're
And
good.
Allison, once you have the full flyer, send it to me, because I'll throw it on Facebook and the website too.
Thank you very much.
No problemo.
Expecting a first place this year, Ellen.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully the other one will have dropped out.
All right, our next item up is the October 1st bicycle ride for food.
Mr. Chairman, in your packet, there is a letter from Jen Chadrick, the event coordinator for 3 Squares New England, requesting permission of the board to have their 12th annual bicycle ride, a portion of which goes through Millis, on Sunday morning, October 1st, 2023. They estimate that 150 riders will take the total 50-mile route and travel through Millis between 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. Cyclists will take a right onto Route 115 from Holbrook and Cleveland Street, and then a left onto Baltimore Street, a right onto Pleasant Street, and a left onto Village, and then into Medway. They're requesting a police detail at Route 115 in Baltimore and at Pleasant Street in Village between 9 a.m. and 12 p.m. They've included the certificate of insurance, so they just need a vote from the board this evening authorizing and granting permission for that, part of that event to go through Millis on that day.
Do we need
Police
to
are-
do anything about a police detail or no?
Yeah, we
There is a police detail, yeah.
Oh,
they
already?
pay
It is in
for the
favor.
Okay.
detail.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
that was my question.
I
Yeah.
know, right?
Yeah.
I didn't know what the motion was
This
for.
is an annual event, it comes through
Yeah.
so they have it down pat,
Okay.
pretty much, so.
Yeah.
So I make a motion to authorize the run, the bicycle ride for food to come through Millis on Sunday morning, October 1st, 2023.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to authorize the bicycle ride for food, October 1st, 2023, between 9 and 11 a.m. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's been, all opposed? It's been moved and seconded and passed unanimously.
Great, thank you.
All right, next we have the appointment of temporary fire department maintenance intern.
Mr. Chairman, in your packet is a letter from Chief Barrett, just stating that over the last year, we've been working with the Millis Schools Transition Program. The program works with students with special needs and helps them get ready for the workforce by teaching them how to cook, clean, do small jobs. We've been working with 2 students, Jared and Maddie. Jared comes on Mondays and works with an aide for about an hour. Maddie comes on Fridays, does the same. The department members have enjoyed working with both students and have been impressed by their work. This year, Jared ages out of the program, and the program director and Jared's mother have been looking for somewhere for Jared to start work, and discussed having him have a part-time job at the fire station. It would be once or twice a week for 1 or 2 hours, working with members of the department. So they're asking that Jared be appointed as a fire department maintenance intern. So the chief's requested that I appoint Jared Parker to the position of fire department maintenance intern with a start date of July 1st, 2023. And I'm requesting that the board vote to ratify that appointment this evening.
Mike, I was just gonna add, I don't know if you mentioned it, but this is a temporary appointment. The chief wanted to kind of do a trial run, appoint him for a year, it would be minimum wage, and then see how it goes, and then, if it works well, go forward from there.
Okay.
I'm making a motion.
You are.
Did you prepare any motions for me, Karen?
No,
Okay.
I wanted to throw
I
you
make
out there.
what, you're just going to throw me out there. It's okay,
Ratified.
it's okay.
Ratified.
We want to see how you
I
do.
can help you with it, though.
So far, how am I doing?
You're doing well.
You think?
Hitting out of the ballpark.
I want to make am I making a motion?
You're
or
gonna
You are
ratify.
making motion
Make a
to
motion to ratify the fire department's appointment of Jared as a maintenance intern, starting on July 1st, 2023.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to ratify the town administrator's appointment of Jared Parker to the position of fire department maintenance intern with the start date of July 1st, 2023. Close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Great, thank you.
Caught me off guard now. All right. All right, that's done. And now we're moving to the property study with Mr. Stedman.
This is our first official meeting with you as chair, moving back into chair, right, Craig?
I've never been this chair before.
Oh, you haven't been this chair before, that's right.
And the
So
finance
yes,
committee
yes,
is,
yes.
No, he's already done a meeting.
oh,
Well,
no,
you
I
did
did, took over the last one.
Part of the last one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking the audience at home, bear with us, we're getting there.
Oh,
So everyone's taking on new roles for the meeting, so.
No motion, no motion. So, okay, we're good. We're good.
Thank you for giving us some time. We're experiencing technical difficulty. Neither I nor Jim can seem to get onto the Wi-Fi to be able to do the Zoom and share and get our presentation up there. I've got it on a thumb drive, so we'll,
Thinking cable might be able to help with that. I don't know
that's it.
if they are listening. Want me to
We
run
need a 10-year-old.
Yeah. So,
Just saying.
But I want to thank you for the time. We can get started on this, and copies of the full report will be given to each of the select board members at the end of this presentation. I want to thank the core team that gave the advice and steering to keep this on track. That was Carol Hayes, the vice chair of the Conservation Commission, Pete Germain, Wayne Clarko, Jim McKay, and Bob Weiss. They all worked very hard, and my wife Sherry, who clogged around and sloshed through the Braun Farm with the research team one day and helped with the forum. And also Carol Johnson, who found a creative way to fund this without affecting the general fund or the Conservation Commission budget. So, the select board members have a copy of the slides there, and there are a few in the back for anyone, but we'll get started. We got here really in 3 steps. First, we tried to get 10 grand from the CPC to fund a study of a few properties that the Conservation Commission was responsible for. They said, if we're going to do this, we should do it holistically and look at all the properties. So we put together an RFP that went out, and it came back $165,000, $170,000, and obviously the funding wasn't there. So we went back to the drawing board and went to the Conway School and narrowed it down to 14 properties. That list was narrowed down by Bob Weiss, Mike Gazinski, Jim McKay, and myself. And then we got the study done, which was done really in 3.5 months. The town owns a total, according to this report, of 181 parcels, which is a ton. But once you combine adjacent properties, exclude the schools, DPW, municipal buildings, and Millis Heights, you're down to about 35 properties. This study was 14 that were representative cross-section. There are 3 Concom open spaces, 3 parks, 3 wetlands or wildlife habitats, 2 orphan lots, 1 historical site, the Braun Farm, and Glen Ellen, which was on there in part just for a research, just for an example for these students, so they can see what's possible to partner between the public and private sectors. What we got from this study, the 3 big takeaways are, 1, there's a methodology in here for assessing the ecological importance of land, whether that be town-owned land or a future acquisition. I think they gave an excellent schema to do that, which should be valuable. And in their process for evaluating and ranking the properties, they looked also at accessibility, the multiple uses that they could have, trails, picnicking, group events, et cetera, and the cost to implement and then maintain. And they gave specific recommendations in here for each of the 14 properties. The takeaways that we really had was from the public forum, the surveys, and everything else. One of the important things is we need some signs on all the properties. There are a lot of people do not know the assets that the town owns, and there are numerous examples of that. So that's important for public awareness. If anybody knows anybody that's creative and can develop, a sign, it's not my forte. So that would be useful. And then, as I said, there are plans for each of the 14 properties. We're here. All right. There we go. We're on the next slide already. No, we're not.
Here we go.
Sorry.
Here we go.
There we go. Yeah. So, next one, we're on the 3rd one. So, you're awesome.
And John, I may actually have a contact that does signage at the trustees,
That's
You
great.
have to pay for development, but they might volunteer as time.
Yeah, I mean, I've got some examples, but I'm not, that's just,
Their stuff is phenomenal, so.
Yeah. cool.
Yeah.
That would be great.
You might be able to do some design work for us if it's.
That's great.
Especially if it's open space and protected properties.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we have recommendations for all 14. And we've got to follow up. They can give the recommendations, but it's up to us as, as citizens and people involved in leadership in this town to make things happen. And this is not something that just sits on a shelf. Maintenance really stood out as something that has to be paid attention to, with probably some annual funding at some point. Not a big amount of money, but some funding. And they also say the town should have a conservation agent. We're about the only town around that does not. Norfolk has a full-time one. That was part-time, and she just moved to full-time. Maybe there's some way we can partner with them now that she's got her hand around things. I don't know. The core team recommendations is one, design signs, which we just talked about, and initiate improvements on 5 of those properties: Pleasant Meadow, Village Street, Richardson's Pond, Waits Mill, and Pleasant Park. And I'll go through each of those in detail. And then the Braun property, what we really recommend is the first thing is to delineate the wetlands there and dismantle the barn, as that is a potential liability as well as an eyesore. So the first property is Pleasant Meadows. And this we can start on right away. There's a 10-year agreement right now with the Chirizios of Tangerini to allow them to farm you can see on the bottom right there where those lines are, that's where he's growing crops. We also allowed him, the Conservation Commission, to start farming another property that was further back on the Bornstein site. And in exchange for that, it's kind of a barter agreement that he maintains the property. When Mr. Tangerini was there, he did a good job. Steve is not quite as diligent, but that comes up for renewal this year. It was a 10-year agreement. Go ahead.
Can you tell us when you get to each of these where they are?
This one is, I believe the address is 72 Pleasant Street. It's down the street from Primavera, kind of at the bottom of the hill, and there is now, thanks to Jim McKay and Dave, there is a sign on Pleasant Meadows that says, or on the street that says Pleasant Meadows.
Okay.
So you can find it. It's a one-lane driveway going in there.
It's the same side as Primavera.
Okay.
Right. And, yeah, last year, at town meeting, they approved a nominal amount of funding for the Conservation Commission, and we put in 2 benches and 2 picnic tables. We have enough money for another picnic table and a couple trees left in that. So what you're seeing here in light green, that area is the hill that is left to grow, and Steve mows it when he gets around to it. So what the proposal is, the black lines in the woods are existing trails, and it's a pretty good trail network that's being maintained. What they're suggesting for that area is to let the light green go to natural succession, mow a spiral of trails in there with 3 trees in the green area that you cut short, and an area on the top of the hill with a bench that also is maintained, and the grass is cut short. That area is, Steve can't farm it with the slope. I think this can all be done with Tangerini and not cost the town any money, other than a little bit that the Conservation Commission has left over. Jim Lederer is supposed to be meeting with Steve Chirizio to make that happen. Any questions on that?
When you say to make that happen, do you mean just the mowing?
That he would
Of the
agree to
path
mow
or
those
put the
trails or
trees
those
in?
paths? That's right.
Okay,
Rather than mowing the whole hill,
yep.
he would do that, and we'd lay out these these trails in a spiral. They'd be mowed probably about every 3 weeks, 6 feet wide or so. So you can walk through there without getting ticks and, yeah, actually make better use of the space. Richardson Pond. This is popular and close into town. The suggestion here is, there used to be a trail that went all the way around, but the bridge washed out. What they're suggesting is the first half of the way around, you design a trail that can be made to be ADA compliant. There really aren't any ADA trails in town. It's fairly short. If it's ADA, it should help getting some grants and some money from the CPC to do that. And that would be a big improvement there. Update the signs, replant the raised planters. The other key thing there is to begin water testing, and Jim McKay is looking for some data on that. We've got to see what the water quality is, so that in phase 2, the water quality can be improved. Old timers talk about when they were young fishing there and ice skating, but when I went past it tonight, it's all lily pads. So hopefully it's salvageable and could be a real asset. So the first step is really to start to see what we have with water quality and how much phosphates and so forth are in that water that are promoting the plant growth. And then longer term, could rebuild the bridge and have the trail go all the way around. Hopefully that can be funded through grants and CPC. The maintenance on that, once it's done, shouldn't be much. Anything you want to add, Jim? No. Okay. Village Street walking paths. These properties were acquired in 1970 and 1975. So we're coming up on 50 years and really nothing's been done. What you're seeing on the map is the 5.1 acres that is right off of Village Street. So this is down on the south side of town, next to the Braun Farm. It's adjacent to the Braun Farm. It backs up to woods. The total amount of land in those 4 tracts that make it up is actually 35 acres. So it's a significant piece of land. It's separated from the Braun Farm by an old esker. And what they're suggesting in phase 1 is cancel the agreement to have that cut for hay. You know, they spread manure there. The deed says it's water quality. So, you know, that it is natural, but maybe that's not exactly the best thing for water quality. Layout trails, what they've suggested is kind of a nice butterfly pattern with trails that get mowed and pollinator gardens. And then reforest the rest of it, which could help with zero emissions and a green town. There's some boardwalks in the wooded section that need to be repaired. And at the end of the property, the town-owned land ends, and then the trail continues around the end of that esker as a loop and back. But there's no marker to say you're entering private property, and we really don't have an easement or any permission from the owners to use that trail.
And who is the owner? Is that Pettis? Is
No.
this the one that backs up to Pettis?
Pettis is in back of Braun.
Okay,
This is the kind of the.
to the left.
Yeah, this is kind of the horse farm that comes off of Farm Street.
Okay.
That own that land. Do you know who they are, Jim?
Yeah, we know about it.
Yeah, it's public. So this one is right now primarily used by people that live next to it to walk their dogs. So this is a suggestion. I don't know how popular it would be with the people in the area. To get back there from the parking lot, you go through mud. That needs to be improved at some time. And you know, there would be some cost to design this and frequent mowing of trails, but it is something that we're close to 50 years that town has owned and really done nothing with. And so that's the suggestion on that. Waits Mill, this is an interesting property that's, I think in a lot of ways, been overlooked. It was acquired in 1920 from American Felt for $1. And it backs up to the Charles River off of Myrtle Street. So it's at the very southern end of town, not too far from Mount Medway. Chief Barrett is already working with proposals to upgrade the building and going to CPC for funds. That is an historic building. Yeah, I've given him a copy of this report. We've worked with him. There's a playground there. It's a swing set that is not compliant with any regulations. I would suggest that Parks and Recs takes a look at that and gives a plan to make that compliant. I mean, it's, you know, one of those big old steel swing sets that we used to go as high as we could. There's not any wood chips under it or anything, and it's town-owned, so you might want to consider that. There's steps that go down to the Charles River, which would be a good spot for fly fishing when there's water. Those are not in very good repair. And some people talk about a picnic area down there where there's some grills and it's flat before you get to the river. And we'll talk about the Ellis School next, but that could be a site to relocate that. I think this is a real asset to the town. Pleasant Street Park. This is where Pleasant Street goes into Village Street, and it's a triangle there. As you can see, this B on that map. That was gifted to the town in 1923 to be a park. There's a monument or something in the center of it to Mr. Himmelfarb. I haven't forced my way back there to find it. You may have seen that sometime, Ellen. I think you've been back there, Jim.
It's covered.
And there's a Bigfoot that you can see from Pleasant Street. It's wooded. There were one-time trails through there. So what they're suggesting is put space for 4 cars on Dyer Street and really cut some trails through there. But the interesting thing to this, to me, is when you combine it with the 3 parcels that are there. To the right on that map, underneath McCarthy Pond, is conservation land that was given to the Sudbury Land Trust in 1991, and they gave it to Millis in 2001, so 23 years ago. There are huge infringements on the 40-foot easement or not easement, but driveway the town has. Guy has a shed there, 2 sheds. I mean, so you really can't get to it. But what they're suggesting over time is to have trails that connect. I've talked to the NOAC's son. He would be very accommodating to actually loop some trails there to give access to McCarthy Pond. And this then could be a real feature for that part of town, and it's not too far from the center of town. It's a populated area. That's the suggestion there. Now, the Elise School, the suggestion is that be dismantled. And it could be rebuilt at Waits Mill or sell the wood. I mean, the school was built in 1872. If any of you have ever been to Wayne Klocko's porch in the back, there's a wood reclaimer north of Worcester, and he went there, and the whole top of that is with hand-hewn chestnut beams that are absolutely gorgeous. So the wood might be worth something. That lot is 3/4 of an acre with 198 feet of road frontage. That could be sold with a percentage of the proceeds, and we recommend 50%, going to a conservation fund for maintenance, and the balance, whatever, or how that gets sorted out. It's a valuable piece of property that would probably go for in excess of $200,000, I've told. And we should address the encroachments at Baltimore Street. And so that could be an interesting complex. So those are the 5 that we suggest featuring on. Longer term, the Braun property, after the wetlands have been delineated, that gets into a discussion of what buffer zones we really want. Whether we want to be strict to the 100-foot from a wetland and 200 feet from a river, or we want to be at the 50 feet zone that we've used in a lot of the developments around town. That will determine how valuable that property is. So I think the first thing, and this is something that the select board would have to fund, it shouldn't cost that much to delineate the wetlands, so you know what you've got. It's hard to do anything without knowing what you've got. And then you can have public hearings to formulate plans. There's a big lot off of Brandywine that could be a candidate for divestiture. And then the last thing is finally developing plans for the Cassidy Farm and Dewey properties, perhaps reforestation, again, to help with the zero emissions and a green city. So that's a synopsis of it. Any discussion, any comments?
What do you got?
I was just going to mention the Ellis property deed.
Okay.
Yeah,
He's still working on that.
Yeah, we have an attorney reviewing the Ellis property deed from 18.
The handwritten one?
Yeah,
Yes.
that has a clause that the only lawyer on our committee, our board, read, and basically if it's not used for certain purposes, it reverts back to the family. So,
From 1820
matter.
something?
doesn't matter, yeah, so
Yeah,
that's,
so-
so we have our town council investigating
Good.
that to see what opportunities we have there, because I do like your plan, we just have to make sure it complies with
Right.
the deed,
Yeah.
you know?
That's
so-
1849, so.
Yeah,
Right.
well, somebody's in
Long
for a
time.
big surprise possibly. So we'll see what the lawyer comes up with on that one. But I did like the plan overall, but Ellen, do you have questions? or-
Well, no, I just want to make one comment. At the beginning, I don't want people to think that we have 181 giant parcels of
Oh, we
land
do
that
not.
we've bought.
Yeah.
A lot of these pieces, many of them, most of them, are little leftover teeny-weeny pieces from subdivisions that the developer just left. 'Cause-
Some of them are.
and so the town gets them. And, you know, we can talk about that later, because some of those pieces are next to other people's private homes, and they would be interested in buying them. But you have to go to town meeting, blah, blah, blah. But still, it's something. So don't fear that we're just spending
Right.
money and buying 181
Oh, no,
pieces
and a
of
lot of
land.
them are Millis Heights, which is a debacle.
Right.
Yeah.
Other than that, I'm not sure why the Ellis School, I know there's talk about, I mean, if we were gonna keep the Ellis School, wouldn't we just rebuild it on the property? Why would we then
Well,
what am I
my
missing?
opinion, there's no parking there.
It's a huge lot.
It is
isn't
a lot, but there's no parking.
Okay.
The beams and support beams are all shot.
I know.
So
You
it
think
would
there's
be a
any-
lot more,
Yeah.
I'm not in the construction business, but common sense tells me you could get the historic significance of it by rebuilding the main floor on a concrete slab, a lot cheaper than trying to fix the foundation. And then, once you've got it, you've got something that's in the middle of nowhere that, what are you gonna do with anyhow?
Right, but-
So if you want it in a historic district with a firehouse next to it,
Okay.
that kind of makes sense. It becomes a Rockville historic area. And you could put some signs there with the old foundations for
Right.
the mill that was there. I mean, it could be a real historic
So
site
there's
for
room,
schools.
so there's room where the fire station is?
To the
For
west
another-
of it.
Okay.
I don't think there's any plans, it's just it was a
No, 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 I
discussion.
know, I'm just
Right,
asking.
It was just,
Right.
yeah.
Right,
Yeah,
okay,
just throw it out there.
Yeah,
that's all I
You want
got.
to add anything, Mr. McKay?
when Aaron's done.
Oh, no, I think I'm good. There's a lot to chew on here.
I know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
I would encourage everybody to go to the, I believe it's on the Conservation Commission's website, the book.
Yeah, and I'm gonna give
I-
them
it-
copies.
It's so interesting. I've never seen a project done so well. The college students, I think, Aaron, you were on the CPC when we voted this in, myself, Kathy, you were on it, and we were all in favor of this project from the very beginning. I think the only thing we dropped the ball, we wish we now did everything. We narrowed it down from, what was it?
35.
35 down to 5, but this project was very well done. I want to thank John and his wife, because she set up the meeting at the library. I think we all attended that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep,
I mean, something that was just brought up at the very last minute. I mean, it was mobbed. I mean, it was,
Yep.
what, 45, 50 people?
That's
came
right.
maybe
in
that's the
very
way we
last
should
minute.
have all meetings, at the
Yeah.
very last minute.
Yeah.
People can't think about not going.
Not going, right. And it was a lot of good input. And I think that the most input that we got out of it was maintenance. Maintenance, maintenance, maintenance. And
Right.
that's something we'll have to work on. And I don't know if Pete wants to say something.
I don't know.
Pete, any
Did you have
thoughts?
something to say?
No.
No.
Seems to be
Okay.
good.
All right.
And Mike Kozinski has a copy of this, and so does Bob Weiss.
You do.
Great.
Thank you all for your
So,
time.
just one last thing.
Yeah.
Didn't we talk at one point about getting this out there to our public?
It's on the website. I'm not sure where it is. You know, it's
Okay,
all
it's on
beyond
what
my
website?
capabilities.
Our website.
Let's try to.
It should be on the
But are they
Conservation
like-
Commission website.
But
Put it on the homepage for a little bit.
But is there like, where they are and,
Oh, yeah,
and a
Yeah.
map and everything?
This,
Is that book available?
that whole
as a
book is on a
PDF?
PDF.
Right.
And you can buy them for $32.50 or something. Camille's getting 10 more, and there'll be some in the library.
This is phenomenal.
Wow, this is
But the
beautiful.
whole book is on the website, right?
Yes.
This
Yes,
whole
Camille
book,
The whole
Yeah,
PDF.
People can read it on the website.
It's hard to read in a PDF form.
That's what I was
It's
saying.
much easier in the
It's-
book.
It's online, and the pictures are fabulous.
Yeah, no, I mean, I
It's a
read stuff
great
in
job.
PDFs all the time. I'm used to it.
Yeah, yeah.
Because, you know,
But that's much
it's my
easier.
preferred, but this is quality. This is preferred over stapled in the corner papers.
Yes.
okay,
Thank you. This is great
That's
work,
all.
John. Thank you.
very, very
Thank you all.
good.
Thank you.
Very good, very good.
And Jim,
And Jim,
and Pete,
Jim and John,
and Pete.
and Pete,
Yeah,
and John's wife.
yeah.
It's gorgeous.
I know,
I
that's
know,
great.
right? I feel like getting markers and coloring in the front page
We need a
here.
bigger
That's
homepage.
gonna happen.
What?
Fine.
Yeah.
We need a bigger homepage. We have so many things I wanna like feature, but you can only
Yeah.
see 5 at the same time.
Okay, our next appointment is with the Millis Housing Authority. So
Belly up to,
Candace, you're up.
not for nothing, but this is his first full meeting. He's already 15 minutes behind schedule, I'm just
That's
saying.
because I said I want things right on top of
Just
each other.
saying.
So my name is Candace, and I'm the director for the Millis Housing Authority. I've become very familiar with everybody here on the board, as well as the individuals who are here discussing these properties. And I'm here with my board member, Mary Ellen De-Espinosa, who's been very proactive with the Housing Authority that leads us to why we're here today. So I think in following John's presentation, there were 2 things that we were here to kind of open up discussion about. We have had John to the Housing Authority at one point with Bob Weiss, because the board is very proactive in the idea of building more affordable housing within town. We've felt that there's a real need for that, and we have the opportunity to possibly partner not only with the town, but with the state as well, with the funding that might be available if we can identify a parcel. And then Ellen also attended one of our board meetings, which really kind of opened up the door for additional meetings to really kind of, I think, gain some traction on this idea. So what the Housing Authority is here for today is to try to talk about what parcels might actually be available, and if the town itself is willing to work with the Housing Authority in building more affordable housing. Right now, from what we identified, the index for affordable housing in Millis is at 5%. And that's where we're at, right? It was about 5.1%. Our Housing Authority itself, we have 83 physical units within town. We have a few other vouchers that we have, but they are not identified within town that contribute to that index. The idea that the Housing Authority would partner with the town would mean that whatever we build in affordability would become 100% part of building that index, which Millis really needs to grow to 10%. So this is why we've had these discussions, and we think it's a really great idea to possibly continue and bring this out to the town and see how, I guess, supportive they are, and talk about avenues that we might be able to identify in building more affordable units. Part of which we heard, and I apologize for my voice because I'm losing it, part of what we've heard tonight, as well as what we've discussed, has been that Cassidy property, as well as the Braun property. But we were talking about units because what we'd be building is senior housing, non-elderly disabled, or family, or a mixed population of that. And the idea of anything where there'd be collaboration between our housing authority and the town is to keep people closer to the center of town, so that if they don't have transportation, because there really is no public transportation, that they have the ability to walk from where they are living to get to the downtown, whether they're families and they're gonna work within town, or they're elderly tenants, which many, I'm sure of you have seen my tenants, they walk from the housing authority downtown, either to grocery shopping, or one of my other board members who's a huge part of the town, Scott Fuzzy, he walks all of the time. He thinks it's a huge proponent for any affordable housing to be closer to the downtown. So we're here to kind of open up that discussion and get some feedback on whether or not the town would be in support of additional affordable housing authority. Additional affordable housing that they could work with the housing authority on.
Okay, so as the town, our position would be, we would provide the land and the housing authority builds the units.
Correct. So however we work that out, and again, there are so many different sources in the building, and we had this discussion, which opens up a much deeper conversation, but yes, if the town were willing to work with the housing authority in identifying that land, talking about how you want to transfer that to the housing authority, we would then move forward with avenues like RFPs for designers, and then the designer would identify a contractor eventually to build, who would identify the funding sources to help build those units in the future.
Okay. Questions?
Well, explain, when you're explaining to me that there's really no cost, right? That the developer bears the burden.
Correct.
The developer who works with the state,
Right.
right? They
Correct.
know, because you work, explain how, like, you're with, Ashland and Medfield?
So I direct Millis, Medfield, and Ashland. And currently, right now, we're in the process of building 45 affordable units. So if you're familiar with the Medfield Housing Authority, it sits on Pound Street, which is right outside of the center. So there are 60 units that are isolated in that area, giving the location close to downtown. We have another parcel that's 2.5 acres, and we're building 45 units on that 2.5 acres. I actually had submitted some of those plans to the board prior to this so that you could see the layout on it. And although it might sound daunting to put those units on that space, the layout actually is really conducive to the neighborhood because it also sits in a neighborhood. The design is beautiful. And the way it works is that we put out an RFP. In our RFP, we went out for a designer and a contractor to go from design to build. And in that process, they work out all kinds of different avenues on how they go to apply for the grant. We're doing a land lease to the contractor, and then he'll go out, he'll get the funding sources, they'll develop the property, and then it all gets paid back through the sources that go into tax credits, LIHTC programs, all kinds of other sources. And I was just kind of staying away from it right now as we're pulling together this conversation, because those conversations get much, much deeper. But
Right.
yes, you can work out a design to build that is to no cost of the town or the housing authority in which we develop those units. And then, of course, at some point in time, depending on that structure, could also give back to the town as well.
Depending on however you structure it.
Correct,
Right.
and depending on what parcel is identified, how many units are going to be put in there, what programs those are going to consist of, there are many different factors that feed into that.
But, so how many, you said what, 80, how many units does Millis have?
So Millis has 83 units. There are 73 elderly, non-elderly disabled units that sit on we call it King Terrace, but it's Union Street and Exchange Street, although they're one property.
Right, Kennedy.
Right,
They
the
back
miles
up. You know how
open
that-
Yeah.
in different avenues. And then we
Right.
have 10 family units on Daniel Street. And to be quite honest, so the other part of this conversation was going to be about the common housing, it's actually called the CHAMP program. So it's the Common Housing Application for Massachusetts. And it's a centralized wait list where people apply to whatever housing authority they want to get into at some point in time, depending on location, public transportation, whatever the case might be. So our housing authority right now, because they centralized the wait list, which prior to this was much smaller, much more local preferenced, there were a lot of other factors to this, which is a problem, which was the other half of this conversation. Right now in the paperwork that I had given to you, that centralized list has over like 9,000 applicants on it. So you have however many, yep, it's like we have 3,549 for elderly, non-elderly, disabled, 6,485 on that list for family. Now, of that, you have 114 for elderly veterans or local veterans, for the elderly, and then for non-elderly disabled, there are only 23, but 23 in a very small housing authority is a lot to fill. And then in family units, for the locals, we have 57 for the veterans, local veterans for one bedrooms, 14 local applicants for just a one bedroom. And then if you go down below that, there are 44 local individuals who are on our list for the 2-bedroom units. We only have 2 3-bedroom units, so that's also a problem because families usually need more housing than that. So if we were to work together, we'd probably look at a mixed population structure that brings in probably 2, 3, more 3-bedroom units to be able to house more of those applicants.
So I wanted you to back up. It's a different conversation
It
about this
is.
CHAMPS. And I'd
Correct.
like you to explain that a little bit, to go back to the way it used to and what CHAMPS came in, because it's a mess. But it's a mess.
It
And
is a
people
mess.
should know what's going on, because you don't, you should know, and you're going to explain it because you're better than I am. But is there a number that you came up with? So we have 83 and then we have 10. What's the sweet spot? I mean, Medfield is getting, you know what I mean? What do you
So the
envision?
sweet spot, depending on structure, from all of the conversations that we've had on the Medfield property,
Yeah.
the sweet spot for investors and the grant money and the funding sources is 45 units. And although Medfield really did become very selective on elderly housing, there's also an additional drive when you also bring in mixed population, like family units, or you can do a group home, but that again is a conversation that would open
Okay.
up if we can identify that property. But 45 units is really
Is
the
where
sweet
everybody
spot.
breaks even, or?
Correct. It makes their money back, and
Okay.
the designer and the builder are paid, and, the town or the housing authority, they gain momentum as well financially. So yes, that is true.
And you're putting 45 on 2.5 acres. And
45 on 2.5 acres, and it's, it's all zoned, it's all approved, and that is what design you have in front of you
Yeah,
right
so
now.
that's design, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you're recommending mixed population, or no recommendation on that?
Not at this point in
Okay.
time. I think the biggest part of the conversation is really looking at how low your index is for affordability within the
Yeah.
town, and how the housing authority can help to get you to the 10% and to be able to bring in, again, 100% of the units that we
Right.
build as affordable units to that index. So, yeah, that's, I think, the beginning stage of this conversation,
I know
to open
that,
it up.
I know that, I was talking to the engineer, Dan Merrickin, that does pretty much permits everything in this town, with the affordables that are already on the books, right? And there's maybe a couple of more coming. We're getting close, believe it or not. The
Yeah.
5% sort of a misnomer. Now, whether the 4 that are on the books come to be, we're planning on them coming to be, but who knows?
Right.
But again, we're still growing, so that number, right, you're always
Right.
chasing it.
Correct.
So I don't think you can have too much affordable.
Right, no, you can't.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct.
And that 45 puts a big dent in it too, so.
Yeah,
we have
huge.
It does,
100%,
and
yeah.
that's really what happened to Medfield as well, and we held this part of the conversation and meeting that we had, is that they were so low. At that point in time, when they had come to the housing authority to build on the property, we owned that property. It was because they were only at 3%, and they knew that in their housing production plan, that this project that we're doing will give 100% back to that index. So that's how we had identified it.
Can I just ask how many Medfield had before the 45? Do you know?
I don't know the exact number, I just know that they were at 3%. So
Okay.
that's where I know that they were at.
Okay.
Okay.
No, I think too with what Ellen brought up, and, depending on, how deep that conversation gets, we have that CHAMP program that we've been discussing. Now, that is it's an online system now, so
Right.
anybody can apply to it.
Right, so
Anybody.
explain it the way you explained it to me, because it was just mind-blowing. So
It really
say
is.
how it used to be, and then Champs came in.
Right, so what we had discussed, and again, not, taking up too much time, but again, the reason that I want to talk about it is to bring it to light so that we can maybe talk about advocating as a bigger party
Yes.
to this, because the Housing Authority advocates all the time. So I sit on Mass Narrow's Board of Directors. I'm on a group called it's the Housing Committee Group that's a subdivision of Mass Narrow, and we advocate on this issue all of the time. So prior to CHAMP coming in, we used to do everything basically in person. So it's one thing to bring in an online system, but we used to have people that they would come in with their application. It was very personal. We'd sit down with them, they'd fill out their application,
Yeah.
they'd bring in all their
And very
paperwork.
local.
Very local.
Right.
I would say at least 90% at that point, because we were doing our veterans, our local veterans. We were also going through all of their paperwork prior to qualifying them. So once they were on the list, we knew they were ready to get housed right at that moment. When we became a centralized system, it was rolled out with a lot of flaws because they were under a deadline. So when I say they, it's DHCD, so the Department of Housing and Community Development. This is becoming a really hot item because before we can so anybody can apply to this list and they can qualify themselves any way they want. So the biggest part of this list,
Candace, can you say when it came out? Would you say 5 years ago?
yes,
Right,
at this point,
almost right before
about-
COVID.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And so right now, the biggest chunk of this list, they're homeless applicants. And unfortunately, in a small town like ours, and all three of my towns are very small, when you have the majority of the list that's for homeless applicants, we have to go through hundreds of applications to get to our local list. So what we're trying to do is advocate to change the parameters within that system, and we've been asking them for this forever, so that it doesn't just become homeless applicants. It goes back to its structure of local veteran, the individuals that really and truly within town need to get a house first, and qualifying them, so that we can get them into those units.
So what happened was, somebody now pushes a button from Northampton
Correct,
to come to Millis.
correct.
They just push a button and they send their name out. They're homeless. Homeless goes to the top of the list. They push a button to all 351 cities and towns with no intention of coming.
Correct.
But she has to take that.
We
as
have
the-
to filter, and
it's
it's
a-
very
it-
specific to each
It's a
unit.
priority.
Correct.
And it bumps out Millis.
Correct. Well, if it doesn't bump somebody out of the unit, it also takes us months and months to fill the unit with somebody local. So yes.
Right,
So
so,
we're advocating to get it back to its simplistic version, even if it's online, to streamline it so that locals and our veterans get that priority.
so
and
just
preference.
explain the process. You have to go through, so they mail, you get the notice from 300 or 3,000 people.
Yep, so we send out packets to these individuals.
It's incredible.
It is hundreds, and so you also
To
have the
everyone.
figures.
You push the
Yeah.
button.
And so you have those figures in your packets as well. And what that shows you very generally is that for each one of those units, that shows you how many people we pulled on that list, how much it cost to send out those packets, and how long it took us to fill that unit. Whereas previous to this system, we would have it filtered out. Primarily, it was local veteran. We would have the unit turned over and would have someone else housed in it within 14 days, completely turned over. We're now turning those units over. We're spending thousands and thousands of dollars every year, and it's taking us 6-12 months to fill a unit. So we could have 6 units that are open, but they're already designated to each one of the pull lists that we're pulling in order to get one person to accept that. And we have to go through hundreds. before we get to somebody local. We call it really the meat of the list. People who are gonna stay within town, people who
Right.
are local to the town, so yes.
So that's why, because I've gotten a few emails
Yeah.
from people who are looking to try to get in.
Well,
And they're sitting open, you know?
Yes.
And Karen
Yeah.
and I actually had this conversation because it was just ironic, again, with like Stony Brook and the issues that Stony Brook just
Yeah.
had, that previous to this, we could have had them come in, we could have had them fill out the emergency application as a
Right.
local emergency due to no fault of housing.
Right.
And we would have been able to house them and get them into the 6 units that we currently have.
So they mail out 1 million packets to homeless people. I mean, I don't want to say it like that, but what percent comes back?
I will tell you,
All of them.
actually, nobody will respond, so they sit idle. And even when they respond, we have to hold it for a certain amount of days until we can verify that they actually are still homeless. And what they really want you to do is even if you send out the envelope to somebody who no longer lives at that address and the envelope comes back as return to sender, they want you to resend another letter saying we're removing you from the list, even though it's not going to anybody because they're no longer at the address. So that takes up at least, it can come
Is
down
it
to like 30, 60 days.
Bob?
Yeah. So 5 years ago, prior to this new system, you'd fill those rooms, those
You said 14
houses.
days.
Within 14
2 weeks,
days.
yeah.
We were under regulation to actually turn the units over, have them inspected. We inspect when people leave, we inspect once the units are turned over, and then we would house, because we'd already have everybody prepared to be housed, so yes.
And
So
again,
what
I was
she
gonna
was-
say,
So we-
like Candace was saying, when we had called because of the Stony Brook
Yeah.
fire, so we have people who are displaced, who need temporary housing. I knew there were 6 vacant
Right.
units over there. There is, so there they sit vacant with people who have no place to be.
Right.
It makes no sense.
So what Candace was saying was during COVID, so this was 5 years ago, so why didn't she come here 3, 2, 1? During COVID, nobody left.
No, the
Right, there are
numbers,
no
nobody, yeah, there
So,
weren't any vacancies during that time.
Now,
frame.
you have how many vacancies? Did you
Right
say
now, we
8?
have 6.
6.
Right now, we have 6, yeah.
And she figures.
And
so-
again, you're
Empty
looking at
units.
6 out of a portfolio of 83.
Yeah.
Right, so no
it's a-
income
Right.
and expense going out.
Empty
Right.
units,
Yeah.
people looking.
And people who
Correct.
need them, not getting them. I mean, that's the big one.
Correct.
So how does one lobby to change the CHAMP system? Is that what?
So reach out to state reps,
Okay.
anybody who is willing to listen, who understands housing, to reach out and to advocate for this change to happen, to bring it back to the local level. That's really the most important thing that you can do to fix a broken system and bring it back to what it should be.
Have you talked to any of the,
So we advocate all the time.
have you hearing anything?
We have a lot of people, actually, I will say Denise Garlick, Representative Garlick, has been a huge advocate of this. So just recently, we were supposed to have a meeting prior to now, but it had been changed, so we just got the email again to go and have a bigger meeting to bring this into light and to really, again, gain traction on trying to change the system back so that we can house our locals,
Yeah.
really and truly. And
Honestly-
the conversation did come up, just in one last thing, because I know.
go ahead.
Again, it
He's
can
already
take up a
running
ton
over
of time.
on his
I know, and
first
I don't want to
meeting,
do
so
that
it's
to you,
okay.
which is why I'm trying to summarize. Let's look at Cassidy, if you guys are willing to do that.
Yeah.
Let's change the CHAMP system, get it back to local, and gain some traction in that manner. Because I know that, again, I know you're running out of time.
No.
I'm
No,
running
I
out of
love
time.
this,
No,
that we're
no,
not
this is
running
a
out
great-
of time.
I
I'm
know,
going to
I
make
This
it go
is-
longer.
This is good, but I think
I know.
that's two really good takeaways. You know, the Cassidy, maybe you said 3, but Cassidy changed CHAMPs.
Right.
And those are the 2 big ones.
Oh, that was the last thing, because in that structure too, and the final thing, if there's a development and there's this relationship that builds, in that scenario, in those structures, they will identify local preference. So when those programs are put
Oh.
into place,
Okay.
they identify local preference.
pretty
So
good.
for example, and we had talked about this, Brian McMillan from Newgate, he's doing my development, he developed a park. When the park came into play, in the beginning, their funding sources roll back to that local preference and getting local individuals housed.
So the park is one of
that's
yours
a
also.
perk.
No, the
No.
park was done by them, but it's the same individual who's doing the design for
Got it.
my Medfield property.
Okay, great. We'll
Any other
continue
questions?
talking about that this year, for sure.
And that is really what this meeting was all about and having
Yeah.
us here. So just to open that conversation.
No,
Yes,
All right.
thank you very much. I
Thanks.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Candace.
thank you so much.
I'm making a note, so just bear with me for a second.
Okay.
Okay. Just take a little longer, Ellen.
All right, good.
PFAS, our favorite topic. Reading about litigation in
I
newspaper
know.
articles on
I've
the
been-
airplane.
I've been
Thank you.
reading
So
this.
I asked Dave to come tonight, and he can give you an update on where we are with the PFAS plant. We're pretty excited, we're getting there. And he can fill you in on what was done, the testing and everything in the past week in the
Great.
building itself. And I'll talk about the change orders when he's done.
I'm Dave Vermaches, I'm DPW superintendent. The past 2 weeks, there's been significant sampling of the PFAS plant to get it ready to go online. All the tanks are full. The building's almost done. We're creating a punch list today. I sent a partial punch list out to the contractor. So they're thinking it's gonna be able to put online within probably 3 weeks. Maybe not complete, because there's some things they're waiting for, but they said we'd be able to run it without everything being complete. So if something does happen, they'll be ready.
Fantastic.
So it's great, I mean.
That is great
you-
news, yeah.
You'd be very happy with this punch list. I'd be, if you saw it, it was a little minute
These are
little.
like paint chips in the wall
I'll-
colors and
I-
things like that.
Pretty close to that. He has them on there. Insulation and stuff like that
Yeah.
are on that list. So when we originally put this proposal together, if you remember, when we went back, we tried to keep off to make it a doable project.
Yeah.
And I think we did that. And we were running low on the contingency, so that, if you remember, we had to go back for the second town meeting to get the money for the contingency. I did give you a breakdown of the contingency, what's still available and what we've spent and what the board has approved so far. I think I did a rough estimate for Winston's change orders including the one that I'm gonna ask for, is a total of $64,805.14. One of the things that, we knew we were putting a metal roof on, and at the beginning of it, we thought, where it was in the woods and stuff like that, it was the idea of not putting on the snow guards. And I think you all know what the snow guards are. They'll slow the slope of the snow coming off the building, and if somebody's driving by, kill them, because it will come sliding off. And as we started building it in the pitch of it, in the two roads that are gonna have to get to the wells down back, the architect, Dave, myself, we petitioned through the town administrator that, the snow guards are definitely necessary, to be put on. And that's at a cost of $15,444. Dave did negotiate with at our bi-weekly meeting that it will be a pay as you go. I mean, it's not just gonna be, they're just not gonna get the $15,444. It's not to exceed $15,444. This contractor that, we're still waiting for them to put the gutters on the building. They originally designed the gutters and they sent the wrong ones. So we're lucky we're not paying for that, but we did get the gutters from the building that we're gonna be able to use in a couple of our other buildings that are necessary. So I would ask that you approve, and I think you see all the language there, the backup information from the engineer, from Kleinfelder, agreeing that this is a necessary addition, and a not to exceed of $15,444 for the snow guards, and allow the town administrator to sign the change order.
I think our insurance will be happy about this.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it makes sense.
Just throwing it out
Do you want to do the change orders one at a time? Let's do that.
Yes, yeah, if we
Yeah.
could, yeah.
Yeah, so we're gonna make a motion to authorize approve the change order for $15,440.
I make a motion to authorize a change order in the amount of $15,444 for gutters, was it?
Snow guards.
Snow guards,
Not to exceed.
not to exceed,
Yes,
hopefully less.
yeah.
Second.
There's been a motion made to approve a change order for not to exceed $15,444, and to authorize the town administrator to sign the change order. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, passes unanimously.
So the second change order, it's a town change order, and what that means is it's our request, the superintendent and my request, that a lot of the site work was left off the project cost, because we felt that as we know it, with the DPW project was, we did all the prepping of the parking lot. Dave dug the detention basin, everything that was, the bollards that were all put up, the retaining wall that was put up around the, was all done by DPW staff at a much lower cost. We didn't have to pay prevailing wage for any of that. And again, knowing what we had to get done, we worked with the architect to say, this is what we need, and we'll see if we have money at the end of it to add on to it at the very end. So with the concrete wall block, if you remember, you took the site tour, you remember there was on the side of the building, there was a cement wall. What we want to do is extend that wall because of the slope of the, we're just afraid it's all going to
Right,
wash
right.
down.
Remember
So
that.
the DPW crew will add that cement block, and at that cost, it's 400 feet at $19,500. The rest is going to be the 3 loads of riprap that we will put on top of the, we don't want grass to go up there or trees or anything, so he'll put a layer of felt down there so that no weeds will go through, and we'll put a large load of riprap. And believe it or not, we cut out at the onsite of this project, we cut out all the grassing, loam, and seeding of the surrounding area of it, just because of, we wanted to keep it within cost. So that would be $400. So not that this is gonna be the last one, we may come back, but I thought this was your only meeting, that's why I tried to push this to get it. I didn't know there was another meeting this month, but we're not gonna buy this stuff tomorrow. So I would ask that you authorize the town administrator to sign these requests as they come in, especially the $19,500, that's above what we can approve. The board has to approve that for $22,600.
Just a quick question, if I'm reading this right, that leaves 317,000
Yes.
in the project at this
Yep.
moment?
Yep.
Okay. All right.
So I'm confused. Is it 22.6 or 19.5?
It's 22,600.
22.6.
For the overall.
But
That way
certain
he can
bills.
sign the
For
the
certain
invoices.
overages. So I make a motion, because she's helping me, for a change order for a concrete block wall of 400 feet and some riprap and some grass seed to, is it not to exceed, or is it not to exceed $22,600?
Yeah, that way we'd come back if it goes over.
Second?
There's been a motion made and seconded to approve change order request number 3 for not to exceed $22,600 and authorize the town administrator to sign. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, and
The vote part.
the last update I have is on the engineering costs. They'll come in significantly lower than what was appropriated for the project, and it's because of all the work that Dave's done inspecting the project on a day-to-day basis. There wasn't as much needed engineering services to come in because he used his licenses to make sure that the building was being built properly.
Thank you, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
That's great news.
Thanks.
All right, now we're into the goals. This will be one of a couple meetings where we talk about our goals. Did I skip something? Nope.
Nope.
All right, so that we'll have
I was
a,
gonna say, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to say, so that the paper that you have includes some goals from Erin that she had added, as well as something from Ellen, and then you have a separate paper with more goals from
Right.
Ellen. Does that make sense?
it does.
Okay, that's all.
All right. I guess we'll start at the top and start just working our way down a little bit. Financial management was the first section we had. And last year, our first item was to limit expense growth to 4% exclusive of dedicated revenue or offsetting expenses. We did move to 6%, but that's because we had higher than anticipated revenues in new growth predominantly, which is a permanent addition to the tax base going forward. This year, I mostly concern myself with the financial ones, quite honestly. I would like to put a similar goal, but, make it a little bit broader to budget expense appropriate to the recurring revenue. That way, if recurring revenue goes up or recurring revenue goes down, we have a little bit of wiggle room in there. Because unlike a business, the town's job is to spend the money in the best way to benefit our population, not to retain wealth or to give it back to shareholders, or pay compensation bonuses. So the budget expense, so I think one of my things is when we prepare the budget to keep budget expense appropriate to the revenue growth, recurring revenue growth. So we'll phrase that a little differently and work through it as we get to the final draft, but that's my revenue one. And if you have any comments or
Nope.
suggestions.
Nope.
I think the second item, plan for the eventual elimination of the host community agreement funds. I put that on last year, that was one of mine, because I didn't know when it was going to end. Now that we're getting into a closer time frame, it's more critical that we do that one
Yep.
now. I mean, we need to start planning for that to happen, because there's several $100,000 of infrastructure, critical pieces of our budget that are covered by that. So I think this is the year we have to come up with a plan. Consolidate services with towns, municipal departments, school department. We began looking at that a little bit more. I think it's something we can continue with, and I think that we were I just think another area that might make sense is looking to consolidate with other municipalities too, where we can. So, anybody have any comments or suggestions on that one, on services?
Yes, I think that we could start to talk to neighboring towns. I think that one way to get our expenses down is to look at regionalization. Now, I know when people hear regionalization, they all freak out. They think we're going to have the two schools are going to be together and we're going to lose everything. I'm not going to that level because I don't see that in our future. Too much of our identity is on our school. But there are other pieces of Millis that could benefit. And one of them, if what we've been doing for the last few months, looking at other alternatives for a senior center, would be a senior center, sharing a senior center with another town. So I'd like to look into that. I'd like to look into maybe some of the other departments hooking up with another town. When I say another town, the one that I'm going to be totally out there would be, I think, Medway, because I've had a few sort of informal conversations. They're in the same boat we are, trying to reduce costs, and duplicative efforts maybe can be eliminated, and maybe we could look at sharing resources. So that's something. Just to start the conversation, nothing's going to happen tomorrow because everything takes time. It took us a while just to get the within town to talk to each other and consolidate, right? So it's going to take time, but in order to get anything going, starting a conversation, I think, would be great.
And I think that can all be lumped under that current C. Item
Yes, I
C.
just, maybe adding an II and
Yeah, yeah.
neighboring towns.
Yes.
first.
Yep.
Yes,
Yep.
yeah, I'm with you. Item D was moved towards correcting the enterprise fund, and it said resolve 66% of the funding issue in this budget year and totally correct in FY '25. I think we can say we just totally finish with that in FY '25.
Yes.
Yeah, because we did make the large portion of that 6% increase was to fund that deficit.
Yes.
Yeah. Charter change to allow town administrator and finance director to approve warrants in place of the
Yes.
select board.
That's me,
This is,
Please.
yeah,
and you,
and me.
and you.
Yeah, we did not follow up with this one last year because we would like to include it into a broader charter discussion. But for those of you that don't know what we get, twice a week, once a week at least.
Yes.
Sometimes twice a week.
Yes.
We get an email listing every bill that the town has, every payroll article the town has, and the three of us read and sign it. But we're doing it completely out of context. I mean, I run a CFO for a $35 million YMCA. I review all the bills. I look at all the bills. I know what the bills are. Here, it's quite a bit more complicated because we're not directly involved in it. Ironically, the people that are involved in it directly don't have the authority to sign it. So you're counting on me going down the payroll register and looking it over and trying to see if I see anything odd with the payroll. And quite honestly, I check key salaries and that's about it. Aaron did pull up a duplicate name, but it was because they were brothers. So that was not a duplicate check either.
But I read it.
But she read it all.
Which is more than I do.
Yeah, I mean, I go over it, but I honestly have a threshold number I look at too. So I think it would be more appropriate to have the town administrator and the town finance director be the two that are the two that
Yes.
are making the decision, because that is their job to make that decision and check it. So,
Yes. Not
but
for
that
nothing,
requires
they
a
don't.
charter change.
They don't get paid until we approve it.
Yeah,
That's the kicker, right?
yeah, yeah.
That's bad.
Yeah, so it, and quite honestly, as they'll tell you, I am always the last one to approve. But if we don't get two of the three of us to approve it, it stops everything in its tracks. And that's not to say large items shouldn't be approved here, and they are, they're authorized by us, but if it's something that is going through the normal procedures, I think the people that are responsible for that should be the ones approving it. All right, moving down to the enterprise fund section, which we touched on briefly. We're going to eliminate the funding issue in the top section and down below. We did create a detailed connection policy, so I don't think we'll have to follow that up. Develop a process, remove homes that have not paid by right connection. So that item's been addressed. Holding permits, we've addressed that we
Yep.
can put a time frame on all new permits issued. Create a guideline that prioritizes connections. We do have that as part of our plan, so that's done. Encouraging packet treatment plants was an idea. I think we've broadened that to include discussing the purchase of sewer capacity from other towns. I think the gist of that item was to try to come up with alternative ideas on how to get more sewer capacity. Packet treatment may not always be the answer. It's an item in our tool chest, but I think the key piece is that we have started discussing options with other towns who have excess capacity. So I don't think there's a lot more in the sewer area we have to do, except I would still put continuing to, I think I would continue to investigate additional capacity, ways to increase capacity.
And you did appoint an enterprise funds committee.
I haven't gotten there yet.
Oh,
We'll get there.
was it not there yet?
What, did I miss that one?
No, it's at the bottom.
That's what I thought.
I missed that. I said they did appoint the
AC on
the enterprise funds committee.
She's jumping ahead.
Sorry, I didn't realize that was on the bottom.
And I thought I skimmed over it, so I was back reading again.
Sorry there.
You're on point, Mr. Chair.
Continue on.
Thank you. Water, secure all available grants, legal settlements for PFAS. We're just gonna keep that on forever, okay? So, if anybody's been reading the newspaper, there's been some encouraging news coming out of Florida, and we are involved in that too. So that's all very, very encouraging. They're going after 3M, which is a interesting approach. Yeah, a question.
3M reached a $10 billion agreement. Where that money
I know.
Right.
comes from or gets to.
Well, that's all part of it, yeah.
All be dead.
But not from PFAS, no.
It'll always be on the
Not
list.
Millis, it
Yeah.
would be dead from people.
But we will have, but that is part of the settlement we're on, and that's
Yeah.
what they're working on. I was on a plane last night till 1 a.m., so I mean, when I took off, they were discussing it, so they've settled it, that's great. All right, so stormwater, we did talk to the billing department to see if we could lump the fees into chunk the fees into multiple bills,
Yep.
and the cost would increase, so we didn't do that one. I don't see any reason to put that one back on.
Yep.
All right. And we did, now
There it is.
Karen, we did appoint a stormwater board of 3 individuals. They're going to recommend on policy, and we've written a whole charter, so I'm not going to run down that list.
Yep.
We would like to get those meetings started up, and once those meetings get started, Ellen, this was one of your items.
It is. I don't know what's happening, but the good news is somebody on the committee appears to be in the audience. So, Mr.
A
Duffy,
little bit of a kerfuffle about how to post meetings, but we have now,
have we figured it out?
we are schooling them as we speak.
I hope you're
Mr.
better
Duffy?
with the meat of it than the, I hope you're better with the policy
I
than the
believe it's meeting
procedure.
this week, is that correct?
Yeah, Jim Duffy, 314 Exchange Street, also a member of the Enterprise Advisory Committee. So there's, some startup,
Yep.
sort of like the
Getting there.
cartoon, the guy spinning his legs.
Yep.
and, But there is another meeting tomorrow night. We've had 2 to date.
Okay,
First one is kind of the organizational thing. The last meeting was touring the DPW facilities
Oh,
and the new
good.
Cool.
TNG plant facilities. Some missteps about getting those meetings scheduled with agendas and et cetera, et cetera. So I think we'll get on track
Okay,
a little better now that I think we sort of understand who's supposed to do what. I think it's the chair's job to put the agenda out, but we all help
Yeah.
get it.
okay.
And then you could school me on meeting minutes, because I don't know if they got posted for tomorrow night's meeting where we want to approve them, so I'm not sure if I
We
should
post
send them to
once
somebody.
they're- Well, you're going to give them to the committee at the meeting, or you could
As a
send them to the
draft.
committee in advance in draft form,
They have them, yeah.
and then they would actually approve them at the meeting.
I didn't know if they need to
itself.
get posted to the website for
After
other people.
approval,
After
typically.
approval.
Usually wait till after approval. You can post them as draft, but it's just logistically, it's really difficult
Okay,
because we have so.
that's fine.
So it might make more sense to just wait till they're approved.
Yeah, so it's sort of been a little slow, unfortunately.
Okay.
But we're
Great.
getting there.
We'll
We're
schedule a
working
meeting
with
for an
them.
we'll schedule official update sometime after the
Okay,
summer.
thanks, Jim.
Yeah, okay.
We'll coordinate it.
And
We're
I
not gonna
believe-
pick a date
No,
at the
no,
beginning,
no,
yeah.
I have a comment along those lines after you.
And I believe there's gonna be some stormwater hearings coming soon, from, once those get scheduled.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right, good.
all right. Okay, improved town infrastructure, recommend for or against senior center in November town meeting. It was tabled, so we didn't do either, but it's off the list. Continue significant funding for road and sidewalk programs. We did put $500,000 into roads sidewalks
Yep.
just recently, so I think that should stay on the list if anybody wants to chime in with
Well, there's more to do, so
yeah,
Yeah.
so it stays on. Investigate uses for town-owned land. I think that's quite appropriate after what we just heard. And Lansing Millis Building, open space, including Cassidy and Braun, and create comprehensive list of all town-owned parcels, including small pieces left over. This is all from
Yeah, that
Aaron's
was-
edition,
Yeah, that was me, actually. I thought that maybe we could, I don't know, put a list of the parcels. I have the list, it's not hard. I got it from the assessor's office. And maybe people are interested in giving us a few shekels for a parcel. I mean, if it adds to their land and they want to take
Yeah.
care of it, I think that's a lot better than overgrown pieces all over town.
And these are quite small parcels. is what
Well,
we're-
some- yeah.
Some of them are, yeah.
Yeah, they're not buildable,
Right.
but they could add value.
I think that's worthy of discussion this year. All right. Software for capital planning, software support for capital planning. I cleaned up the Excel spreadsheet for them, but we did not acquire any software.
They need software.
Yeah. We may differ on that view, but I think we need the right software, yeah.
Yeah, they need something other than just a spreadsheet, for sure.
And then expand town services, increase senior services.
Well, I think we did a little bit of that.
We did, we added,
Right.
that was the only place we added to a department line.
Yes,
But we
And
still need more.
We do.
We do.
So I'm keeping that on there.
yep.
And then we have the other items we worked on, which were the rail trail, well,
Yeah, I-
investigate the rail trail.
Interesting on
Yeah.
the rail trail. I had a conversation, right? It was fun, actually. So Bob Weiss had been talking to the railroad, and he told me something, and I'm going to just say it right out here. I didn't believe him. It was so preposterous, I didn't believe him. So I said, Bob, let's get a Zoom with this guy that you're telling me. Okay, he says. He gets a Zoom with the guy. He gets a Zoom with the guy whose father owns the railroad. He has a Zoom call with the guy whose father owns the railroad track in Millis. And, which was hilarious. The guy was great. Initially, he said, no, we can't do anything. No, and no. By the end of the conversation, I had him thinking about it. But the reason we don't have a rail trail is because the guy who owns the trail, who owns the line, believes 100% that rail is going to come back to Millis. He believes it, that it will come back to specifically Ann and Hope, because that was the spur that was there forever, that it was there really to service the Clico and Shingle, right? In
Yeah.
between. So because that land is not developed, And I said to him, well, it might be housing. Oh, good, we'll pick them up and bring them to, and I'm like, oh my God, this guy is like real. So anywho, I said, well, Medfield got a rail trail, everybody got a rail trail except Millis. And he's the guy, and it's whether he wants to do it or not. But by the end of the conversation, he said, well, let me see what I can do, because we could always do it, and then I'll reserve the right to put the tracks back. I said, okay.
That might be something. Okay.
That was my
It would be
conversation.
great.
Huh?
It would be great. It connects
Yeah.
everything.
It was just unbelievable. But anywho,
We'll leave it on since you made headway. I
in
was
10,
thinking-
I know, right? In 10 years, maybe the train will come and I'll look like an idiot, but okay.
Citizen of the Year, we do have a couple of, not Citizen of the Year, but we have was it the Lansing Millis
Yep, that she
Yeah.
just
Citizen.
did.
Citizen? Yeah.
Yep.
And,
Yeah.
and then townwide trash service.
Yeah, no, it's not gonna work.
That's not gonna happen.
Nope.
Yeah, we did do some.
I did
conversations around it,
actually
yeah.
investigate, and the company I was going with was the local one here in Millis, and then he sold to a big giant one,
Yeah,
and so
I haven't heard anything
it's
promising on
positive.
that,
I
yeah.
haven't heard anything positive about it either.
Yeah. All right, and then we have some new, improved communications, live streaming meetings, open government up and running, website improvements,
And online permitting.
and online permitting.
Karen,
Yeah.
Zoom ended.
All right, so I'm gonna say we gotta keep live streaming meetings on as a goal.
Yes, and online.
I know.
40 minutes.
Like I said, I was about to put a check mark next to it because I thought we'd been doing it. Almost, almost.
Last one out, get the lights.
And online permitting.
Yeah. All right, and then we have an additional list.
It's only been 3 years or whatever since we started.
Do you have some items that you
Honestly.
would like to see added?
So
Karen?
I pretty much did what this is.
Okay.
And I felt that there was enough that we would keep on this
Yeah.
list to reasonably try to accomplish.
Yeah.
So I didn't add anything new.
Okay. Did you keep the senior center?
We need to direct
No,
something
it's
towards
specific,
senior
yeah.
services.
Okay, but what
And-
about the senior center?
We will need to.
We're still exploring.
We will put something in there about senior center, continue to investigate,
Okay.
especially since we have the grant to continue getting funding.
Okay.
And with your suggestion that we discuss other towns' partnerships,
Yep.
there's a lot of investigation that can be
And we
done.
should add Candace's senior housing.
Yeah, I put that one in.
You did, good. Town engineer,
Okay,
conservation agent. We should look at that,
yeah.
I think.
Any chance they could be the same person?
What do you-
Yes, yes, absolutely. Yes.
And if I'm correct on the town engineer, that was a position that paid for itself. the
Yes.
Elimination of town consulting engineers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we talked about, from your list compared to this one, we talked about a lot of these things, but we didn't talk about parades and fairs, the IT upgrades, and then the last one, the budgets to include light item for grants outside
Yeah.
funding. What does that mean?
That's me.
I would like to see the budget presentation to the committee be a little different than what's voted on at town meeting. Because the town, finance director does a great job getting the right items on the ballot. But the way it was presented to us was quite confusing because it didn't include the HCA money in the current year, but it did in the prior year, so we couldn't see anything. And it doesn't show grants and other funding sources that we're getting. It's almost like a second, because honestly, if those grants go away, you'd have to fund it. So I'm not looking at and I understand the budget that's voted can't include those grants. Because that's they're a different area, because you can't vote to get the grant. If the grantor doesn't give it to you,
So-
you don't get it. So I'd like to see a set of budgets presented, all-inclusive, if that's what you're talking about.
Well, yeah, it really came to light when we went over the budget for the seniors downstairs, right, Karen? All of so it didn't make sense. We were going over the budget. It didn't make sense. How can you pay this person 70 grand when you've only got a light item for 40? Well, we get that from,
Grants.
it was such a mush. you had no idea.
So
They-
on the budget documents that are submitted by the department heads, there is a category where they list other funding sources, but the chair is correct, we don't have a holistic
Right.
budget
Right.
document that shows it in total. So you could have one budget document, which is the one voted by town meeting, then another that shows additional funding outside
Right.
of the regular budget process for informational purposes,
Well,
so
it paints
people
the whole
know
picture.
that
Right.
there's other funding sources that go into those
Right.
departmental operations.
Yes.
Does the
Few more
police receive a
columns.
large amount, the council on
Yes.
aging? So
So we
it would
need
be
another
helpful.
column for an
Yeah.
informational
Add over.
column
Yes.
of additional
But even the
funding.
schools,
Well, schools especially.
Schools fall in the same
Especially.
category.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they have circuit breaker money and
Yes.
other
A lot
types
of
of
other stuff
funding
coming in.
that goes into that.
And
so,
we look at it all the time, so we know what we're looking at. But
So,
if you're
so
looking at it from
let's
the outside, it's very
discuss budget
confusing.
presentation.
Present budgets.
Across the board, and we'll request that the school present in a similar fashion, showing their grants, which is in there. It's, because I've gone through the whole book, it's in the appendix, but you have to go back and start adding
It
numbers.
is confusing.
It does get
not my
confusing.
strong suit.
And so I can find it on the school, here it doesn't show up. It just exists. I mean,
Yeah.
but it doesn't say what
It's in the background materials, but it's
Right.
not shown as
Yeah.
Right.
It's
line
harder to
item on a
find,
column.
yeah. So we'll figure a better way to present, and we can
Yeah.
make it work, and we can translate the school into that also to show the grants that they receive.
That'd be good.
Because really, if as those grants go away, and if those grants go away, it leaves you with a sizable budget hole out there. I'll take a
Right.
stab at typing up some of these notes that I have, I'll send them to Karen and Mike, and they can see
We have
if
them
I
for the
missed
next
anything,
packet.
and we'll have them for the
Yeah.
next
Yeah.
packet. Okay,
Perfect.
Okay, great.
but this way I won't lose it. Yes, please.
Jim Duffy, 340 Exchange. So, in one of my previous lives, I used to run large projects. And as part of that, you'd have an action item register. And I advocate that you start tracking this sort of stuff in a register that can be sort of produced to the town so that the citizens understand kind of where we're making progress or not. That, I saw this document, there's been no review of it at any of the select board meetings, and it may be a quarterly type of agenda item that you might want to put on here and say, we're making progress, or, oh damn, we haven't touched that one yet, and make it a priority. The other thing is I haven't, who's got actions here, right? I heard a
Yeah.
couple of people take actions, but it's not clear to me who's got
Yeah, and.
actions, for
and-
example, right?
We'll,
So-
we'll review it a little more often. I did look at it periodically last year as we went through it. I mean, it wasn't something that was. we
Yeah,
were
but it would
ignoring,
never
but we
came
were
up at
never
a select board
formally
meeting
reviewing.
or any of that stuff, right? One of the comments you made earlier about an update from the EAC, I'd advocate that actions, or not actions, but goals be set, recommended for all of the committees or boards or teams that fall under the select board's purview, and if, minimum once a year, there'd be some measurement as to their progress. Somebody made a comment, I won't say who, at one meeting, that we have many boards, some are more effective than others. And so,
Yeah.
that sort of, kind of run it as a project, report up, create some goals, get some status reports, at some point in time, might be sort of a,
We will look at it at
program
least
to start
quarterly, and we'll
taking a
see what
look
we
at.
can do for plan. Some of these committees are quite independent too.
Understand.
So, but-
some of them are elected, so you got.
yeah, so,
Thank you.
and some we don't vote on, we just sit and listen and comment periodically. All right, that leads us to our next topic, which is assigning committees. I'm going to make a strong suggestion that the Norfolk County Advisory Board designee not be filled. We can go to the meetings if it's something that's critical, but honestly, it is Millis gets one fraction of a vote. It's what Quincy and Brookline decide to do, and it is 3.5 hours. The advantage was there was a meal,
What's the timing of these meetings? What time
usually
do
like
they-
6 o'clock or 5:30. I was fortunate it was in Quincy, so I left work, went over to the restaurant, had a lovely dinner. It's really, it's a $30 million budget for the county. It's an interesting set of people. It's an interesting process, but there's not a lot that we get from
Well,
the.
if
from
we
them.
need to put somebody on it in
Yeah.
case we have to go
That would be
on,
good.
then,
Yeah, I can go for that too. But yeah, was there a question? Yeah.
I just,
You
you
wanna
don't
be
have
on
to
it,
be a
Kim?
selectman to be on it.
That's true, many
Yeah.
of them weren't.
So if there's someone
That's
interested
right.
in town that wants a.
You interested,
No, no,
Kathy?
no, I didn't, but, you know,
Yeah.
You're right, I
we've
think
had
Nicole
nice
Riley did it
discussions
too,
on
I think.
regionalization and
Yeah.
everything, just with the.
No, that's
the
good.
Towns around you.
We'll see about appointing somebody outside of the select board if they're
Right.
interested.
Oh, yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
good.
Can
And the
move
one,
that.
and the two that I've been to have been focused mostly on legal matters, nothing that
Right.
was
Right,
productive,
right.
so maybe I've got a biased view.
I can advertise it as one of the
Yeah.
volunteer board and committee positions.
Yeah.
Have you thought about a regionalization committee, getting a group of people together, rather than all this selectmen having to do something like this?
I'm always thinking about committees, Kathy.
You know, I mean.
Yes.
you can't
Yes.
expect-
No.
This guy runs last year it was a multi-million, it's $1 trillion nonprofit now, so, it's.
35
we're gonna be
million.
next
Yeah.
week.
35 million.
No, Kathy, you're right. We talked about that for Pride, right? We didn't do anything for Pride.
Yeah.
I don't know if we've ever done anything for Pride. No. So it's a committee. It's not, right? You find people that, or don't they typically come to us and say, hey, we'd like to, right? But
That's
people
typically
aren't
the way it's
doing
worked, yeah,
that.
yeah.
So I agree.
Just announce it now to get it out there and say, geez, if anybody is interested.
If anybody's, can we do that?
Well, I think it's a little late for
All
Pride
we'll
right
do it.
now.
No, but
Let's-
for next, no,
Yeah.
start working for next year.
Yeah, well, let's come back with the, yeah, if anybody would like to be working to form a committee to do something they think needs done in the town, please let us know. I
Yes.
mean, it can be anything from the, they,
Ad hoc.
ad hoc, it
Well,
can be,
it could-
there was somebody who wanted to do Millis Pride Day, not Pride Day, but Millis Pride Day.
Yeah. We
Yeah.
used to do
We used to
Millis
do a big one,
Pride.
and the committee was not anything official. And a lot of those committee, but I'll go on record as saying I will vote for any day that a committee or group wants to do Millis Pride Day on. I think that's great. But I don't know that it always makes sense to have that be an officially appointed committee of the select board. There are a lot of things that can be done by the community that doesn't have to
Right.
come from the top
They
down,
just
that come from
bring
the
it.
bottom up.
Yes.
I'll cite the two examples we had today, the 10-1 bicycle for food and the run back to school. All we do is we just tell us the date and we say, great. Yeah, so if that all works, then
Who does that?
some more things like that.
Right.
Mills Beautification Day is another perfect example. It's nothing to do with the town, but we just approve the dates. So if any of these groups want to exist and move forward things to us for approval, I don't think we've ever said no to a date once the police chief and fire chief sign off on it. You know,
Right.
I'm not gonna, I got nothing against 10-1, you know? So, all right, let's move through the others committees real quick and see if we can
Okay.
get that done. Cable TV Advisory Committee, I served on it. I never attended a meeting. I don't know that they had a meeting.
They didn't because they were in between, sorry.
Yeah, I will say, they will be becoming much more active this coming year because the renewal with
The licenses.
Verizon Fios is coming up. So whoever would choose to be on that would have a little more active role this year.
I could make a suggestion.
Is anybody on that now?
I'm on it, but they haven't met because they don't have, they haven't
I
had a
want to be
meeting.
on a committee that doesn't meet.
Well, they might go into heavy negotiations, which I was thinking might be your strong suit.
Contract negotiations for a new cable license.
I don't mind.
You might make somebody cry.
Oh, that's fun.
Unless everyone's dying for it.
I don't mind.
Yeah.
You're on it now?
I'm on it
and
now.
you've never,
Only because they didn't have anything to meet about.
Right, they
They
will
meet
this year.
when
They
they
will
have
this
to.
negotiate the
year.
contract. Yeah,
It's contract
Yeah.
oh,
negotiations.
so you don't know anything?
it's a lovely.
Well,
Well,
Mike knows.
they will be, once the negotiations get going, which I expect could start by the end of the summer, it could be meeting monthly, so it could be
Okay,
pretty
well,
regular.
monthly's better
Yeah.
than weekly. I don't mind.
Okay, I would like to stay on the capital planning committee. I've been working with them through the MBTA housing and everything else. I'd like to stay involved, if that's okay with anybody here.
So what's the one I just got?
You got
Are you
cable
taking
TV.
notes?
TV Advisory
I'm
Committee.
writing it down.
Fine,
Yeah.
I'm not going to write it down.
You're on the Cable TV Advisory Committee if
Okay.
it's voted.
Aaron, you did like the cemetery committee.
I love the cemetery, but Ellen, if you want it, I will relinquish it to you because you would love it.
Would
You
I
would
love
just
it?
love it. You really would. But you don't have to, I mean,
No, I'd like to love one of the committees that I go to.
I think you'd really love it.
Let me love it.
All right.
All
I'll
right.
take that
Roosevelt.
one, and, you know,
Look at our list.
I'm closer to that anyway, you know, being,
Jeez.
not for nothing, but, you know,
You can pick out
get
something nice.
intimate with
Pick
it.
something nice up
Pick
for
out
us.
something nice for yourself.
Yeah.
You did come in second in the race.
I did come
Yeah.
second in the race.
CPC, that's currently, current Community Preservation Committee is currently Ellen. I'm hesitant to keep her on all of these, so we
Yeah,
spread
no.
them out a little bit.
I can do it again, if
Okay.
you want.
Yeah, I don't.
Okay.
All right, back to Underhill.
Okay, I'm sorry, the first one was capital planning, the next one is economic development, that I was on. I did like that with the 40B, the capital planning, I get those two mixed up for whatever reason. But capital planning committee, I enjoyed being on, I like the capital, and then the economic development with the 40B,
You like that too?
yeah.
Okay.
Fine.
Yeah. yeah. I don't like it, but I finally understand it. I think it's
Well,
good
then
to have
don't leave
that
it
continuity.
Energy?
Energy committee.
I'm on that. I don't mind that.
Okay,
If anybody else wants it, do you want it?
No.
Energy?
No,
They only meet like once a
not
month.
particularly.
yeah.
I know. It's good.
Emergency planning committee, that's Aaron.
They've only met like once or twice, but
Yeah, they don't meet a lot.
I'm
but
happy
they'll
to stay on that,
Probably
Yeah.
meet maybe, 2 or 3 times a year.
unless you want it,
I
Craig.
think we
but
are due to have something soon for that.
I don't,
Yeah, but
if you're good with
I'm
it,
fine
stick
with
with
it.
it,
I
yeah.
don't want it.
The MBTA 3A Advisory Committee, that's part of the, that's a
That's
branch
you.
of the economic development, I'd like to keep that.
Yeah.
I'm catching on to that finally.
So you want to advertise for the Norfolk County Advisory
Yeah, we're gonna
Board?
advertise for Norfolk County. And, Aaron, you're on the Permanent Building Committee. I don't know if you wanna keep that or not, or Ellen, if you want it.
I haven't seen, I haven't seen a lot from it yet, you know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
they're just like in the
There's
beginning
nothing.
stages of
Yeah.
trying to get the school thing going and
They're
Lansing.
basically gonna be probably the busiest with the school project, I would say,
Right.
over the next couple
Well,
of years.
If you keep it, then you each have 3,
I'll keep it, that's fine then,
All right,
yeah.
right? Because that gives
That's good.
Ellen,
Well, I also go to school committee, but that's on me.
yeah,
And I also go to the Charles River, which I want to keep.
okay.
continue on,
I like that.
yeah.
I like
And,
that.
and some of us
Do you want me to
periodically go.
take school committee?
No.
And
No,
school committee's
I
not an
like it.
official one, we
Okay.
send a
It's not
liaison to.
official.
No,
So,
Yeah.
we can continue our view of showing up and not sitting together nor talking during the meeting and attending if we have questions as needed. And if we do want to ask us a bunch of questions as a group or anything, we post.
yep,
So,
okay.
as it gets closer to budget time, that might be more of an issue.
Yep, that's 3 for each, and
It's great.
Norfolk County yet to be seen.
Yeah, let's see who's
So-
interested. And honestly, if there's an urgent issue that does come up or something that needs representation, I can make it.
Okay.
They don't meet at the Aggie now, they meet down in Quincy at the golf course, so it makes it a
But they
lot better.
Zoom too, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I went to Zooms.
Yeah, they also Zoom.
Okay.
So it's, trust me, I'd be at the Aggie, it sounds lovely. They're talking about it, they're saying how wonderful it was, and anyway.
So for the longest time, I didn't think I was a voting member of the cemetery committee, but this says voting member, so you'll need to get sworn in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you never voted?
Were there any close votes?
She's gonna say on what?
All right.
No.
Okay, the other item we have is the vote to ratify the union contract. We don't have copies of that right
Wait
now.
a minute, you have to vote to officially appoint yourselves to
Oh, I'll
this.
make a
Yeah.
continue. I'll make a
Sorry,
motion
right?
Yes,
Appoint
you
people
should,
to
yes.
the list
Make
as-
a
You actually
motion,
appoint.
As written, yeah.
As
I'll
modified.
run down the list.
Okay.
there you
I'll
go.
make a motion if that's okay.
Okay.
I have it written in front of me. I make a motion that we appoint Ellen Rosenfeld to the Cable TV Committee, Craig Schultz to the Capital Planning Committee, Ellen Rosenfeld to the Cemetery Committee, Aaron Underhill to the Community Preservation Committee, Craig Schultz to the Economic Development Committee, Ellen Rosenfeld to the Energy Committee, Aaron Underhill to the Emergency Planning, Craig Schultz to the MBTA 3A Advisory Committee, leaving the Norfolk County. I'm gonna put myself there until we find a replacement, but I'd like
Okay.
to actively
I
advertise for
can
one.
actively advertise.
Appoint Craig Schultz to the Norfolk County Advisory Designee, and Aaron Underhill to the Permanent Building Committee, Select Board Liaison.
Okay.
Somebody needs to say second.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to appoint the Select Board to the list as read.
Fabulous.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, excellent.
Do you have the ratified contract?
Yes, did I hand out the contract?
I don't have a copy of it in my pile.
Copy of what?
Still need
The
a vote?
ratified contract for the fire. So what
Mr.
we've been
Chair-
doing is.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It's my understanding what we've been doing is going through all of the contracts for this, all the town departments, and taking what was a pile of memorandums of understanding that modified the previous contract, that modified the previous contract, that modified the previous contract. So it was kind of this pile, and it made it impossible to find anything, because you had to go back and reference the prior contracts updates to reference the prior contracts updates. So Karen has undertaken the effort, first for the fire department, to put it all into new and updated contract. I'll let Karen or Mike speak to more details about that.
Do you want to talk about it?
I
I'll
was gonna
touch
say,
upon
it's-
it.
you- I was gonna say we've
So
also worked on it.
historically, so I first thank Karen for all her work in orchestrating this. We've been reviewing these, we've sent these to council, we've been in discussion with the unions, just, you know, for clarification and understanding. There's no substantive changes to the contract. It's really formatting and including all the provisions of the numerous MOAs, or memorandums of agreement, into one document so that it's much easier to reference and you don't have discrepancies between the core agreement and subsequent MOAs. So this is a project we've been working on, and we will be doing this with all the major collective bargaining agreements. I think we're currently,
Police we have one small
I th-
blip that we're fixing in the police, other than
right.
that, the
I
police will
think
be
the
just about ready.
The SEIU has been completed,
SEIU, we just have to, there's a few things we have to work on with SEIU.
so that'll be coming up shortly, the SEIU updated
close.
agreement.
DPW, I have
The
not started yet.
police, the
hard
DPW, so we'll be updating all of those. Again, there's no changes to the provisions of benefits, it's simply putting them together and updating them appropriately into one agreement. So, the board votes to approve this. We will post them online to update those agreements.
My only concern is, I know we approved the memorandum of agreement.
Correct.
Yeah, so they do have a contract they're working under right now.
Oh, yes,
Right, yeah.
yes.
Yes.
So my only concern is, I would like to read this before I vote to approve it.
So we can put it
and-
on for the
Absolutely.
next
Yeah,
agenda?
that's what I'd like to do.
Absolutely.
So, because I mean, I wouldn't know that you left something out, but I would like to look it over. I mean, honest to God, they were 3-ring binders with things
Yes.
added on and
Yes.
things
Yeah,
redacted.
there's no need for haste on
Yeah.
this at all.
No.
So, again, it doesn't change anything, it just makes it one document for easy reference and guidance.
And then moving forward, when we go back into contract negotiations, we'll say, here
I know,
is the
right?
current contract, instead of here and
Looking
here
at 6
and here
documents.
I
and
know.
here.
Yeah.
And then we will immediately, or as close to as immediately as possible, once it's
Yeah.
agreed upon, put that into this one. So we will always have this document.
Perfect.
Um,
This should have been a goal.
This
Yeah,
was
this should have been a goal.
This has been a goal for a
Check
very
it
long
off.
time. Wait a minute, that could be my
This has
goal,
We
been-
can
right?
still make it a goal.
This has been an
Okay.
administrative goal.
I mean, I just remember doing the
Yeah, what
The,
are
uh,
the administrative goals?
Yeah, I was gonna say, there you
The
go.
DPW
Well, this is one of the human
contract.
resources that people say, what does human resources do? This is the thing, these are some of the things that you do when, that we haven't.
We got hung up on an item on the DPW one just because no one knew what the most current version of the original contract.
It's true.
It got real
Right.
messy. I mean, not contentious, but we just didn't know what version
Very
was the final
confusing.
I
version.
agree.
Yeah.
Very, very confusing. We all finally realized what it was.
So,
No, this is great.
this is some of the
All
stuff
right.
people don't
So
see
we'll put
behind the
this on
scenes at all.
your next
And
agenda.
the unions agreed to this is the correct version also, right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yes, the unions reviewed this, the fire chiefs reviewed this, we've reviewed this.
Okay,
Take
I
your
just
time to
want to
look
take
at
the time
it. If
to
you,
read it over.
happy
Very
if you
well.
see
Yeah.
anything that looks off.
I
you can
attempt not to
probably
vote on
make sure.
things that I've never seen before that are of this magnitude.
Yes.
I hear you.
And the draft is online. It is on where the agenda packet is, so
Okay.
if someone
Great.
wants to look at it, they can.
All right, next we have approved one-day special alcohol license for Bogastow Fish and Game Club.
So you have several in here. The Bogastow Fish and Game always just a lot of summer activities. So I believe there are 4, if I'm correct here. There are 4 different one-day special alcohol licenses, the first of which takes place on September 2nd. It is a wedding reception, and the hours of sales will be from 4 to 8 for all alcoholic beverages for profit. The second is on September 16th. It is the Bogastow Music Festival that happens every year. It is the 12th one, actually 12th annual music festival, and it would be from 12 to 9 p.m. Third is June 24th, actually, I don't know if this is out of order, but on June 24th, there is another wedding reception for a club member from 4 to 8. Again, all alcoholic, this is non-profit. And then the Bogastow Fishing Games 83rd annual clam bake from 2 to 6 p.m. That's non-profit and all alcoholic beverages. So once I get these, if you approve them, we make sure that these get sent to police, fire, DPW, in case there's anything that's needed.
And we are invited to the wedding receptions if we're
And
signing
you
these, is that
absolutely.
right?
I was
So-
looking at the clam bake, so.
So,
I was just assuming that we can
just a
invite
reminder,
tickets
when
to
you're doing an
those.
alcohol
Clam
license,
bakes for boys only, Ellen.
The what?
Clam bakes for boys.
I went to the pig roast.
Oh, yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
I went, and I have to tell you,
Yeah.
I had never been there in my life. And of course, I didn't think I would know anybody. I knew everybody. And I stayed for like 4 hours. It was really quite nice. And Nate Maltinsky showed me around the whole place, Nate and Chris, and it was great. It was a gorgeous day, and it was great.
so when you're doing the approval of the alcohol licenses, you are approving the one-day alcohol license for Nate Maltinsky for the Bogastow Fishing Game Club. You have to approve it for the person who is applying.
Okay, so I'm
Does
just
that
going to
make
read
sense?
this.
He is the responsible party.
So I make a motion?
Yep.
To approve a one-day special alcohol license for Nate Maltinsky for June 6, 2023 at no?
Kind of.
That's the
For the
date that we're
event.
meeting. For the event.
Oh, for August 20th, 2023?
Today, Ellen. Yeah, yeah.
Is June
that's right.
6 today?
Yeah.
You write it, I read it. I can't do better than that.
I'll highlight it next time.
Number 2, I'm just going to do all at the
Yeah.
same time.
Yes.
And I make a motion for another one-day special alcohol license for Nate Maltinsky to be held at Bogastow on 9/2/2023. Another one for Nate Maltinsky to be held on September 16, 2023 for a one-day license. And the last one-day license for Nate Maltinsky for June 24th, 2023.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the 4 one-day liquor license for Nate Maltinsky at the Bogastow Fishing Game as read by our vice chair. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We just need to sign these.
All right.
I need to bring something nice to the weddings. Okay.
Yes, bring something nice to the wedding.
We're going to be proving one of these for ComCan. We're going to have our
Oh,
our
nice.
employee party there.
I love it.
You can come to that one.
Do you come as honorary employees?
All right. All right, we need to, the next item up is to terminate the regional IT agreement with Norfolk.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, as a result of the recent town meeting approval to increase the billable hours of the IT director to full-time status, I'm recommending that the board vote in accordance with Section 16 of the intermunicipal agreement for information technology services between the towns of Millis and Norfolk to withdraw from and terminate its participation in the IT support agreement. As there's a 90-day notice provision in the agreement, I'm recommending a termination date of September 30th, 2023. I have reached out to the town administrator of the town of Norfolk, and he is aware of this, certainly as is the IT director. And they are expecting notice from the town within the next couple of weeks. So The one thing I would say is that, I will be in conversations with the town administrator in Norfolk in regards to keeping a good working relationship with them in regards to the IT services, so we can have some sort of coverage if our IT director is away for a period of time, for them to cover us and vice versa. So I'll be in discussions with the town administrator in regards to that, so that we have that coverage in case there's any emergencies while our IT director is away, as everyone occasionally is.
Yep.
So,
So I'll take a motion to authorize the town administrator to terminate the agreement.
So I make a motion to terminate the regional IT agreement with Norfolk. Is that effective 9/30/2020?
yes. To
You
be
didn't think I
effective.
wrote that down, did you? Because I was going to jump all over me. Effective 9/30/2023.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to authorize the town administrator to terminate the IT agreement with Norfolk effective, what date was that? 9/30/2023. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
All right. And now we
Minutes.
just have 3 sets of draft minutes. We have February 7th, 2022,
Yikers.
February 14th, 2022, and then for you, Ellen, May 15th, 2023.
Yes.
Do I make a motion?
J-
I make a motion to accept the draft minutes for 2/7/22, 2/14/22, and 5/15/23.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to to approve the 3 draft minutes as listed. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All in favor? It passed unanimously.
Great, thank you.
Karen, I thought you said we were 100% done with 2022.
We are,
Yeah,
but
but
we're
you
only
haven't approved
throwing,
them
we're
all.
only throwing so many at you at a time.
Oh, my God. Okay.
All right, I make a motion that we,
No liaisons, huh?
No, but you know what?
it's not on the agenda, we can't do it.
No, because I said, because I did the appointing of the liaison, so
I don't have
next
anything
time.
either.
Okay.
All right, I make a motion that we adjourn from public session to enter executive session for the purpose of considering purchase or lease of real property, since such decision may have the detrimental effect on negotiating positions of the government body. I will poll the board to enter executive session. We will only return from executive session for the purpose of adjourning. I'll poll the board. Aaron,
Aye.
Ellen,
Aye.
Craig, aye. Okay, we are adjourned from, we're entering executive session.
Not too bad, 9:04. Not as
Yeah.
good as Erin, but you'll get there.